talk more about the situation on the ground, we can go across to journalist and Washington Post columnist Barkha Dutt in New Delhi. Barkha, thank you very much for joining us here on France 24. I know it's been a difficult week for you. You yourself have lost your father to COVID-19. Based on what you've experienced and what you've seen in New Delhi, is it a fair assessment to say that the healthcare system in the capital has completely collapsed?
Thank you for having me. I think the way I describe it at a moment of deep personal devastation is to say that the healthcare system has been betrayed by a monumental policy failure. One doctor told me that it was like being sent to fight a nuclear war with a stick. Hospitals cannot save lives, cannot save patients if they are not provided an uninterrupted supply of oxygen. To be very clear, people are dying not from COVID per se, but from the lack of an uninterrupted oxygen supply. And I have personally tabulated in the last 10 days here in the capital, but also in other major Indian cities, multiple incidents, at least 5 to 6, where in one night, 12 lives, 20 lives, 25 lives just are lost because there isn't a supply of oxygen. And our state and central governments are still squabbling over this in court. So I think what I would like to say is that although I lost my father, at least my father was able to get a chance at a hospital bed, at an oxygenated bed. Hundreds of thousands of Indians are not getting that chance, and we are seeing criminal incompetence and mismanagement at several levels from our government and from our administrations.
In your assessment, what went wrong? Is it messaging on the part of the government? Is it COVID fatigue that set in? Because I myself was in India. I visited my family in Goa. Barkha, I have never seen so many people wear face shields on a flight, neither in Europe or anywhere else. What happened?
I think it was a colossal misreading, and then that misreading was made worse by hubris, by incompetence, and by ignorance. So, for example, we decided as a country to gift away and export vaccines before we ordered enough for our own people. We decided to get hung up on the idea of an India-made vaccine when there were clearly foreign-made vaccines that could have been ordered, and we're now scrambling to give them approvals, whether it's Pfizer or Sputnik. But 2 months ago, we weren't ready to do this. We over-centralized the vaccine rollout system so that Maharashtra, the western state that was the worst hit by COVID cases, when it was asking for permission to start door-to-door vaccinations, the central government said no. And to make matters worse, some of you have been following this. Through this period of carnage, we have seen mammoth political rallies, election rallies take place, in multiple different states, creating super spreader events and creating mixed messaging, irresponsible messaging right from the very top. Even now, I believe that the data that you shared at the beginning of your bulletin, it's staggeringly bad, both on the caseload and the death rate. But I've been personally reporting from cremation grounds and graveyards, and I can share with you that the actual numbers of fatalities are much higher. Some estimates are suggesting maybe even 4 times high than what we know on paper. So I think there's a sense that our government is neither being transparent, nor humble, nor competent.
And while all this is going on and the Indian healthcare system has been brought to its knees, Indian missions abroad are being told to control the narrative, when in fact staff at the missions themselves know what's happening at home. They have family at home and their uncles are falling sick or dying from COVID-19, what have you. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel disgusted. It makes me feel disgusted that the attention should be on narrative building, on what the Western media is saying about the Modi government, rather than about saving lives on the street. Personally, for reporting and for speaking up, I've been abused and trolled and threatened, even at this moment of personal tragedy, being called names like vulture, because I speak up and I call what's happening out, as do several other journalists. And any journalist who is actually doing her job right now is being threatened online, is being abused, like these are the battles we should be fighting instead of turning to each other and saving lives. And I think among Indian citizens that I speak to, there is a sense of having been orphaned by the Indian state. I met the brother of someone who died at an overcrowded cremation ground in the capital, and he said to me in Hindi, "Hame Bhagwan bharose choda gaya hai." Translated in English means, we've been left to God's hands.
Barkha, thank you for taking the time to speak to us. And again, sorry for the loss of your father. I can't imagine what you're going through. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.